All right, you're just going to have to picture this guy dead because, well, you ain't getting any picture anytime soon. But, you do not have to picture the country in which he died in a whole heap of trouble because I've got the proof, and I'm going to show you now. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto, and sorry, no photo of a dead bin Laden, but will you settle for a gravely wounded Pakistani stock market? Because I am telling you, for Pakistani investors staring at a big drubbing there today, the worst in 10 weeks, that's a lot more frightening. Because the fallout from this bin Laden killing is proving really frightening. Seems they are so worried about losing aid from here that they're just selling anything that ain't nailed down there. And for very good reason. Fears the $18.5 billion Washington to Pakistan spending spigot is closing, as more in Washington feel hoodwinked by a country they say had to have known of the monster in its midst for years. Well, Texas Congressman Paul doesn't much care. He says, stop this ridiculous foreign aid now. He joins me right now. Congressman, they're worried over there. Should they be?
I guess they should be, but, you know, I'm against foreign aid altogether for everybody, so it's not very difficult for me to support it. You know, the one provision I saw was, well, explain to us whether or not you knew he was there and, you know, defend yourself. If you don't, we're going to take away your foreign aid. You know, that sort of suggests to me that we bully people, that we say, if you do exactly as we tell you, we give you your money. So I like to take the more principled approach and say, we shouldn't steal money from the American taxpayer and give it to dictators around the world, which we do, you know, whether it's Turkey or wherever, Egypt, and many of these places. So I would say that, yes, we should take away their foreign aid. But, you know, if I had to predict, I'm not sure they're going to do that. There's a lot of talk about that, but there'll be a lot of arguments to keep it because it'll disturb our relations with
no, you're
Pakistan.
right about that. We're already hearing it today, Congressman, this talk that China might step into this vacuum, and if we turn our back on them, China will be more than happy to lend them wine or whatever. What do you think of the fact that Pakistan might even be playing that Beijing card?
Well, it's possible, you know. They've been known to be pretty good traders, so no, that's always a possibility. I mean, they act in their own self-interest. You know, everybody does. Countries do, individuals do. And if they think it's in their self-interest to play one against the other, besides, you know, China has more money in the bank than we do.
They actually have money. Actually, you're right. They have money. You're right about that.
They have $3 trillion and $1 trillion of ours, so maybe they think it's a good time to unload on dollars.
They have a lot to spread around. But I do want to get back to your original point, and it was a good one because you've raised it before, post-Tunisia and Egypt and all these uprisings, what we get for all of this money and supposed influence, very little. But in the case of what's happening in Pakistan, Congressman, I'm wondering if it was faulted to begin with. If you're saying you're paying all this money because we are united in finding, let's say, Osama bin Laden, what is possibly within their interest to find the guy? Because then the gravy train would stop once they do, right?
Yeah, I guess that's it. Somebody said we always have to have an enemy out there. But, you know, it doesn't look like he was very well protected either. I mean, 4 people in a hole in the wall, and you know, they went in. It wasn't much of a firefight. It reminded me actually of capturing, you know, the Iraqi
Saddam Hussein
dictator. Saddam,
right.
capturing Saddam. Right. He was in a hole, and
right.
This was a hole in the wall that they captured him, and you know, a few people. It was a rather amazing conclusion to all this.
Yeah, at least this guy was above ground before he was underwater. Yeah. but I'm wondering, though, about the bigger picture of foreign aid. You're right, Congressman. We always do make a big stink about, oh, we're never going to do this again. We're never going to do this again. And I think what happens is we get very concerned. I mentioned the China card before, and we say, oh, no, we don't want that to happen. We don't want that. And then we open the wallet all over again, and we never learn. So the momentary freeze or even pause, and it's more psychological than anything else, it never results in less foreign aid, only more.
No, it will end, though. It'll end when we no longer have dollars that people trust and we can't pass them out. And I think we're approaching that pretty soon. But that also is a challenge to our military presence around the world. So I argue that foreign aid is taking money from poor people in a rich country and giving it to rich people in a poor country, because I don't think it really helps the people over there. I mean, and I think that in so many instances, the dictator ends up with the money. Certainly in Egypt, the people didn't get help, and there were billions of dollars sent over there. But, you know, rich people here, Wall Street doesn't suffer when we pass out foreign aid. Matter of fact, a lot of them like it because they figure they're going to be forced to spend some of that money back on some company that sells stuff to these dictators. But the little people suffer because they suffer the consequence of inflation and weak economy. So
you know, you're right.
Really
it's a very incestuous relationship. That is for sure. Congressman, it's always great having you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Neil.
By the way, Ron Paul will be among the 5 potential GOP presidential candidates taking part in the first Republican presidential debate tomorrow. That's going to be hosted by Fox. It kicks off at 9 Eastern Time in Greenville, South Carolina. Hope you can join us. In the meantime, President Obama not releasing pictures of a dead Osama bin Laden, citing that national security risk. Officials telling Fox he might have had some good reason that the bin Laden images are indeed gruesome. One showing a bullet hole in bin Laden's forehead and an eye that is, quote, completely gone. The guy who used to hunt down bin Laden for the CIA says the president's making a big mistake. Michael Scheuer, why is that?
Well, he's going to encourage people to believe that either bin Laden is alive or the government is hiding something about this. Neil, we're so conspiratorial these days that the president really, I think, should just cut his losses here. The operation itself was beautiful, but the post-operation political handling of it has been really a botched job.
This idea of inflaming tensions in the Middle East, leaving aside the fact that these countries like Tunisia and Egypt and Yemen and Syria and Libya, they've been inflamed. But leaving that aside, is there much to that this would make al-Qaeda or extreme elements mad all over again?
On the margin, Neil, maybe, but we're so disliked across the Muslim world that it really doesn't make any difference.
But I thought that was improving. It's not?
I hardly think that it's improving, sir. As long as our foreign policies remain consistent, as long as we're supporting the police state in Saudi Arabia, as long as we're supporting the Israelis, as long as our troops are in Afghanistan and Iraq, those are the big recruitment tools for al-Qaeda and its allies.
So you just are being supportive of Israel, financially or not, is enough to get these guys nuts.
It's a huge problem for U.S. foreign policy. Whether or not you support the Israelis is another question, but the fact of our aid to the Israelis is a major motivation for the jihadis.
Would you stop it all, Michael? Is that the real issue going on?
I agree completely with Congressman Paul. The government should not be able to steal money from your pocket and give it to foreigners, whether they're Israelis or Pakistanis or Saudis.
Well, you said in the past, Michael, it always ends up in the wrong hands. But back to this photo that isn't going to be released issue. If it is considered particularly violent, where was the concern for the violent images exacted on his victims?
You know, I don't know where that was, Neil. You know, the idea that any picture in today's American culture could be shocking is unbelievable. It's, you know, Hollywood does things which would shock me, but certainly seeing a man who was shot in a combat situation isn't going to shock any American.
Well, then let me ask you about how Osama bin Laden left the world. How many diehard, quite literally, loyalists do you think are still out there who worship him, you know, to the extent of dying for him, even now?
Well, in his organization, there's probably no more than 1,500 or 2,000 people. But I think the bigger issue, Neil, is he is the one person in the Islamic world who stood up to the United States, who hurt the United States, and who was able to survive for a long time. It's almost a Robin Hood story.
Yeah, but what was behind then, Michael, his declining influence?
Well, I don't think the influence was declining. I think we live in an age of celebrity, Neil. And we looked at the poll numbers that said, do you like Osama or don't you like Osama? The real poll number to look at is what the Muslim world thinks of U.S. foreign policy. And consistently, that is an 80% negative total across men and women, young and old, militants and moderates.
But they'd hate us whether we're there or not, whether we're funding money or not, right?
Well, they would certainly hate us one way or another, but they wouldn't be attacking us if we weren't on their territory to anywhere near the extent that they are now, sir.
Interesting. All right, Michael, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Michael Scheuer. All right.